Hey, I'm Lenore Wilson. We run programs for the homeless in Okaloosa and Walton counties, the numbers of which have been increasing dramatically over the past year. The figure that hits me the most is that last year we found 400 children who were homeless in 2009, the first of 2009. Now there are 1,033 homeless children in Okaloosa County. Those numbers come not just from a point-in-time count that we conduct, but from the school districts, from counts by different organizations that serving children. There are homeless children and they come to us every day. Melissa came to one of the parties that we were giving for students that teachers are identifying as being potentially homeless but who have not been recognized as such. And she was cold. And we gave her a coat. And she said, "Oh, but I didn't bring a coat. That's not my coat." And we said, "No, of course that's your coat. You know, you can have it." And she said, "Oh, well, I'll be sure to bring it back tomorrow. It won't be so cold then." We said, "No, you can keep this coat forever. This is your forever coat." She was 13 years old and she burst into tears and she said, "I've never had a coat. I've never, ever been warm." We found out at that point that her family has always struggled, but is now homeless. They're not admitting, they had, up to that point they weren't admitting they were homeless. They were ashamed, they were embarrassed because it's not something they've come up with before. But they worked seasonally. They have 3 children and those children have worked so hard with them and they're so proud. But they worked at minimum wage jobs. They worked 20 hours a week so that nobody was getting any benefits. They were just holding on, just barely holding on. After the oil spill came, they couldn't hold on anymore. One of the 20-hour jobs went completely away, and whereas they normally experienced the ability to, even if they fell down, fell apart during the year, when they got to the summer, they could get jobs in the restaurant business. They worked as waitresses, they worked as busboys, occasionally the wife would clean houses. They would put it together and they would be able to pay back their debts, keep up with the landlord, put a little bit aside to get them through. And those jobs weren't there. One of the 20-hour jobs they had was lost. The other 2 20-hour jobs weren't enough to support a family of 5. And they were living in a van, and the van wasn't working. They were walking everywhere. When we asked the little girl what she wanted for Christmas, she said she wanted a flashlight so she could do her homework when it got dark. That's where she was. That's what we had. Our clientele is filled with Melissas. We run a shelter. We have 40 beds. Over half of our residents are under the age of 5. These are children who have been born into struggling families who can no longer manage to keep up with the struggle, who are losing hope and losing heart and coming to a homeless shelter as though it's the absolute worst fate that could exist. They've seen the movies, they think homeless shelters are dismal, that they're going to have pieces of pallets on a concrete floor, but it's all they have left. It's the only place they can go to turn to. Unfortunately, the numbers have grown to the point that even though we can house somewhere up to 40, if enough of them are tiny enough, we have 65 to 70 people coming every day looking for help. Up till a year ago, we could about keep up with the demand. I mean, every so often we'd have to turn people away, but pretty much anybody who came to us for help could get it. Now, we may have 2 people for every 1 person that we can house. It's a constantly building problem. Another issue we had as a single mom was working. She was pregnant and had an 18-month-old child. That she left because when she got pregnant the second time, her partner became increasingly frustrated and stressed with the idea they weren't going to be able to manage to feed another person. His anger got to the point that he began to beat her and to hit her because he was so worried. He couldn't take on that extra responsibility. It was going to be over. So she has come to us, and now she has no health insurance. She has a baby who's on the way. She has no way to care for that baby. She has an 18-month-old child. She's not in a very employable situation at the moment. She had been working, but as she got 7, 8 months pregnant, she was working as a waitress, lifting heavy lifting heavy trays, and she couldn't keep, and they asked her to leave. So there are plenty of people, because of the recession, because of the BP oil spill, because of the lack of jobs in the tourism and the fishing industries, there are tons of people. There are 5, 6 people looking for every one job. They don't have to take women who are 7 months pregnant anymore, and they don't. And they come here and they look for help. We have offices in Crestview and Walton County that don't offer shelter, but we do try to offer assistance for helping people pay their rent when they're starting, when they no longer can keep those keep it together. Again, we have single moms. We have a single dad. His situation was difficult. His wife had cancer. They had 5 children. His wife had got cancer, so she eventually died and left him with 5 children and a ton of medical bills. He lost his job. And they sold their car to try to keep enough food going, and so they were walking, those kids were walking 3 or 4 miles every day just to get to school. He was walking 8 miles a day to work as a busboy. At a restaurant, you can't sustain a family of 6 on a busboy's income. So they became homeless. It's been a constant story of stress and strife as families are trying to cope with an economy that has no room for them. As a result, our shelter has gone from a general occupancy of 25, and then we've reconfigured, reworked, redone, and now we've put in it. We can, as I said, if the children are small enough, if we have enough babies, then we can get up to 40, because bassinets don't take up as much room as beds. And still we turn more and more people away. The need for services keeps going up. We keep trying to keep up with that demand, but at the same time our revenues keep falling off. We went, I don't know from a figure, I'm trying to remember exact figures, but for the 6 months prior to the oil spill, we were generating revenues of about $11,000 a month. In the 9 months since the oil spill, our revenues have been about $4,000 a month. At the same time, the need for services has continued to escalate. We did get stimulus dollars from the federal government that was supposed to last us for 3 years to help people carry through the recession. It's been 15 months, and we've expended 92% of it. We just went ahead and spent because the need was there, and we kept hoping somehow things were going to get better. And meanwhile, we had babies sleeping in the woods, babies sleeping in cars. We couldn't just see that and turn a blind eye. And even with that, we were turning away 7 families for every one we helped. It is just an incredible loss, and it hurts and it's heartbreaking. One of the things that makes it more heartbreaking is that we know if we do have help, we can turn lives around. One woman who came to us early on, like pre-oil spill, happy, what looks now back to the good old days, the glory days. A woman came in and started working, who was homeless, and she had 2 children, 2 and 4 little girls. Just stunning, just beautiful. We got her trained, we got her work, and I saw her. She had gotten a Customer Service Employee of the Year award. She's gotten all kinds of extra benefits, and her picture is on a plaque on her building where she works. And she turned to me beaming and said, "For every dollar I save, for every dollar I spend, I save $1. I'm never going back there." And she said, I go back to volunteer. My children love the staff. They get really excited. "Oh, sure, can we go back and see Mr. Cece today?" And she said, "But I'm going there as a guest and a volunteer. I'm never going back. I'm never being homeless. I'm not doing that to my children again." We see how people's lives can be transformed with just a little bit of help and encouragement and love. And we're looking to be able to restore, to be in a position to offer that again. Thank you.